Hey guys, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
We're two lifelong friends and musicians, and when we're not playing gigs, we like to talk games.
And today on the Game and Gig podcast, we're talking about the all-digital future. But before we dive into our main topic, Randy, let's talk about what we're playing now. So what you been playing?
I've had a huge week, another big week in gaming for me. I was gaming a lot last week and this week as well. I finished 2 games. I finished Pokemon Legends Arceus, and I also finished Resident Evil 4 VR. So you guys can stop hearing me say that I'm playing those games because I'm done with them.
Yep.
And I started 2 new games. I started Half-Life Alyx, which is a VR game.
Yep.
And then I started playing Horizon Forbidden West. So
nice.
That's what I'm playing right now. Oh, and I'm playing Fable 2 with Catherine and I. And then, of course, we always play Sea Thieves.
Right. Oh, yeah. We're always playing Sea Thieves.
That's just kind of a given, isn't it?
Yeah. Spoiler alert. I'm playing Sea Thieves too, Randy. I also finished Sifu, which was awesome. I really love that game. And I have since started the grand undertaking that is Elden Ring.
That's a big one.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, at the time of recording this video, we're currently uploading an Elden Ring First Impressions video. So by the time you see this, you could have already seen that.
Yeah. I'm not in that video, but Daniel and our other video producer, Nick, is on there. And they're talking about Elden Ring because they started playing it. And I think you guys will really enjoy that.
Yeah, Nick had a lot to share because he's actually played the Dark Souls series before. So I had played Sekiro, which is a From Software game, but that's a little different, I think, than Dark Souls and Bloodborne and all that. So that was a fun one.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Elden Ring, you picked it up on PC. Now you got this new PC, and you chose to pick it up digitally on PC. So that kind of leads us into our main topic today, which we're talking about the all-digital future. A lot of consoles, this is like the first generation we've seen, like the PlayStation, the Xbox, they have all-digital versions. You can only purchase the games digitally. Well, they have versions that accept discs as well, but it seems like the industry is moving more and more towards digital games. We're finding out that more and more every year, a larger and larger percent of gamers are choosing to buy their games digitally. And I think that there are some pros and cons to the all digital future. And I want to talk about them because I had a lot of questions. And I think that, our audience or anyone watching this, they may have some questions or some just concerns that they also would like to know about the all digital future.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, I've kind of flip-flopped on the all-digital future.
You have
over the years. If you're a Naruto fan, you could kind of compare me to the Great Fence Sitter. Shout out to any of the Naruto fans out there. But I still kind of go both ways on it, honestly.
Yeah. I don't think you're alone there.
No, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. The main reason I picked up Elden Ring on PC is because the PC is new to me.
Right.
And I love it. And it's also really streamlined for capturing footage, which is nice. And I knew I was going to be capturing footage for Elden Ring. So that did kind of play into my decision.
Right.
But honestly, I just love my new PC and it's powerful enough to play the new games. And I just kind of wanted to play it on there. But,
right. But like say a new game does come out and like say you're not just in your honeymoon phase with your PC and let's say down the road, a new game comes out. Do you pick it up physically or digitally? Because I know my answer.
Yeah.
But because I certainly think I would pick it up physically if I could. And because I have just seen the way that digital games are in terms of like, you don't really own them. Sure, you kind of like are entering a contract, and they're saying like, we'll provide this for you as long as we can, or as long as we want, really.
As long as we want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're seeing that with Nintendo now with the Wii U and the 3DS eShops. Now they're saying that not only will you not be able to buy games from the eShop, but soon you won't even be able to re-download games you've already bought.
At least that's the rumor.
Yeah, you're right. That is a rumor.
It's not like officially from Nintendo yet.
That's true. Yeah, that was reported by Nintendo Life, and they had an anonymous source who reportedly was involved in the
a former Nintendo employee apparently.
Yeah, so I would like to think that Nintendo Life would vet their sources, but we'll see. But that's a scary thing, because that's something you've bought that you won't be able to get anymore or to have, even though you bought it. Yeah, potentially. And we can't. I don't think it's fair to expect Nintendo to keep that stuff up forever. But I also think you can maybe make the argument this is a little bit too soon. I mean, the 3DS hasn't been out of production that long.
No, the 3DS has only been out of production, like a year or two?
Yeah.
It's not long at all. So, this really kind of opens a big can of worms. That's just beyond like, where do you like to have it? Because, you might say, I like to have it physical because I'm a collector.
Yeah.
But certainly digital is very convenient in lots of ways.
It really is.
So let me see here. We have the next little topic here, and it says, let's see, does buying physically versus digitally vary depending on the specific platform? So like, what I was asking in this is like, if you're buying, like, say it's on PC versus Switch or PlayStation or Xbox, like, does the various platforms that we game on judge whether we purchase something physically or digitally?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts?
Well, for me, it does. It really does. And I don't have a great rationale for why. I have a little bit of a theory, but for me, from here on out, as much as I can be, I'm all physical on Switch. Now, obviously, I just bought Elden Ring digitally, and I could have picked that up for a console, and I could have got it physically for that console. And I guess I could have got it physically for PC, but I don't even have an external like disk drive, and I don't have an internal disk drive on my PC. So it's like,
I'm assuming they're selling physical versions for PC on a disc.
Yeah, we're just assuming, but
I just don't see those very much anymore. I do see them, and I'm assuming a big game like Elden Ring, you could probably get a physical version. Let us know, guys, if you know that if Elden Ring has a physical PC release. Let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I don't know. I haven't looked into it.
But I mean, for PS5 and Xbox One, Xbox Series X.
You old man.
I know, man. I'm living in the past. I am leaning towards physical for sure. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be tempted by a convenient digital release from time to time.
Well, I'll tell you what is different to me about the Switch versus like PlayStation and Xbox in terms of physical releases. The Switch is on a cartridge.
That's what it is.
And you don't have to load anything onto your system's memory. It's just all on the cartridge, and it reads directly off the cartridge. Whereas on the PlayStation, the Xbox, they come on discs, and you have to load them onto your system memory anyway. So really, the disc is just kind of like a memory. It's like a memory stick with the game on it, you know? But so it's not... You kind of have a disconnect of feeling like you actually have the physical game.
Yeah.
Like it may just be taking what's on the disc and dumping it on the hard drive or the SCD or whatever, or SSD, sorry.
It's all right.
But it doesn't feel the same as if it's just reading directly off the cartridge.
No, it really doesn't. And, even less, just if I can speak more kind of touchy-feely about it, like we're cartridge kids. Oh, yeah. And when I was a kid, I loved plugging in those cartridges. I can't say when I was, plugging in Majora's Mask that I ever thought, man, this is so cool that this is reading this straight off the cartridge, I just think it's super cool. It's nostalgic for me. Nintendo came back to the cartridge, and it just makes me happy. And I like to have them.
I've said it on the podcast before.
Yeah.
In one of our very early episodes before we were even doing an official like podcast style thing, I said that one of the main reasons that I bought a Switch in the first place, or like one of the things that made me like super excited about it, was the fact that it was going to use cartridges. I mean, it was pure nostalgia, but like,
yeah.
And it wasn't just a handheld. It was, also a home console that used cartridges. And that to me was like, really looking back, it wasn't that big of a deal because it's basically like a just continuation of what the DS and the 3DS was doing, but
it's a home console.
Yeah. But it is also a home console. So that's what feels different about it.
Yeah.
And I don't we grew up with discs, and especially like those early discs, like, from PlayStation 2, those things were super, super fragile.
Yeah, they were.
And they were so easy to scratch and damage, especially when you were a kid and you didn't know to take very good care of them.
Yeah, you just stack them up.
Oh, yeah.
Just have stacks.
My PlayStation 2 discs were all just like a giant stack of discs. And that was...
And then you'd shuffle through them like you're shuffling through cards, you know? Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, it's awful. It was a bad thing that we did. We didn't take care of them. We had discs go bad all the time.
Yeah.
We just did. It was just a constant occurrence for me to put in a game one day, and my favorite game is now ruined, and I can't play it anymore because it just finally took that last scratch that, broke the camel's back.
Yep. Camels are very susceptible to scratching.
They are.
We learned that from an early age. Let us know if you did as well.
So, yeah, I think that it does vary a little bit. I think that still I am trying to buy all physically because what I've realized is that now that I've been gaming, I've been gaming since I was like 5 years old. So I've been gaming for over 25 years. And what I figured out is that those games that were very early, I'm so glad that I still have physical versions of. And we're still running the experiment to find out like how long the digital games, how long you really have access to them. We don't really know yet.
Yeah.
Because we're just now, like this is literally the first time that we've had, besides like, some things that have died, but this is like the first big company that's had a console that had significant digital releases say, okay, it's not there anymore. Or we had the Wii. I guess the Wii is that way.
I guess so, yeah.
The Wii definitely, and you can't download any of the old Wii stuff. It's been down for a while. So I guess we're seeing that like...
I guess that's true.
The lifespan, we're starting to see that it's not as long as maybe we were hoping it would be.
It doesn't even feel that long ago that the Wii was big for me.
Oh, no.
I mean, it really doesn't.
Well, it was really big when we were in high school.
Yeah.
And when I was in college. I mean...
And we were just in high school a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly. Last year.
Oh, man.
I wish I was still that young.
Well, just to transition us over from us just wallowing in our age. I found a talking point that you wrote down in the notes. I thought it was really interesting. Have you ever regretted buying a game physically or digitally? And I was curious what your thoughts were on that because I know mine.
Well, yeah, I have. So like, I immediately think of like games that. Like this has happened to me a number of times, but the one that immediately comes to my mind is Stardew Valley, because Stardew Valley came to the Switch digital only at first, and now there's a physical release. And I wanted to play the game when it came out on Switch, so I bought it digitally.
Right.
But I love that game so much that now I want a physical copy of it. To just for the collection, and then also just for kind of just to have it, just in case one day I don't have access to it anymore. And I get that like Stardew Valley is on like everything, so I probably shouldn't worry about it that much.
Yeah, I think you'd be able to play that one for a hot minute. But
still, that has happened to me a number of times with games that were digital only to begin with, and then they are popular enough to warrant a physical release down the road, and then you either have to buy it twice. Or you just miss out, or you feel like, I should have waited. And there's a lot of mixed emotions that come along with that. So what about you?
Well, I had a very similar experience, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I had a friend recommend Hades to me quite a while ago, when it was fairly new, I guess.
Right.
And I downloaded it on Switch. And I played it a little, and I liked it, but I didn't immediately get hooked, and I had a lot of stuff going on. I was busy. And we also weren't running a gaming channel.
Right.
So I let that one sit for about a year. And then I came back to it, and as everyone knows, I completely fell head over heels in love with it. And it's one of my favorite games of all time at this point. And I owned it digitally.
Right.
So I was in the same boat as you with Stardew Valley. But I'm going to be like the devil on your shoulder right now, Randy, and I'm going to tell you, just buy that game, because I bought Hades twice.
You bought it twice.
I bought a physical version of Hades because I wanted to have it on Switch.
I know.
As long as I can keep up with it.
And I'm a game collector, and I have no problem with buying games, but I'm also very cheap. And like if I already own a game, I'm really not going to want to buy it twice.
Yeah. And that's completely sane.
Right. I'm not going to want to just buy it again just to have it. But I mean, like, I'm trying to think if there's been any games. I'm way more apt to do that with consoles. Like I own like 3 DSs, because they're like different variations and stuff. You know, like that's a little different.
Absolutely, that's
even
different.
though I already had a DS. In fact, I have a couple like DS Lites, and it's like I already had a DS Lite, but I got another one that was a different color, and it was in a slightly better condition. And I tell myself like I'm gonna sell the other one, but I never do.
Well, that's kind of like
the collection.
You know, I fell down the Game Boy rabbit hole hard, and I'm still looking for a Game Boy Light for a good price. If anybody's got to hook up on a Game Boy Light,
those Japan only?
Yeah,
Game Boy Light. Okay.
That's the only Game Boy that I either don't own or haven't owned, because you have my old SP.
I do have your old SP. I bought it from you.
Yeah, that was before, I didn't know. That was before the metamorphosis.
You're not missing out much on that SP. It's one of the 001s.
Right, and I want to get a 101, and I was getting to that. I need to get a Game Boy Light, and I need to get a 101.
Yeah.
And then my Game Boy collection will be complete. I'll have including the micro. But that being said, if I found a good price on a cool variation of an OG Game Boy, even though I already have one, you better believe I'd buy it.
So there's definitely some differences between like a game and like some people do get into games. They buy, like I think of like Horizon Forbidden West just came out, right? And there was a regular version. There was there were like 3 tiers of the game. There was like a regular one, and then one that came with like some DLC. It was like a special edition. I don't remember. And then there was one that came with like a steel book and like artwork, and there was like everything. And they all had different packaging. They were all like visibly different. Like it wasn't just like, And so I think they definitely do that, because I think there are some people who are going to buy every version of it.
Yep.
And not only that, they did every version, all 3 like tiers of it for both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And I bet you I guarantee you there's some Uber fan out there that bought all 3 versions for both PS4 and PS5.
And you know what?
That sounds like crazy to me.
And they probably don't regret it at all, man. They probably have that stuff like set up and displayed, and they probably love it.
Yeah. But I mean, that's more and more common now. We're seeing like different editions of games come out, and people collect them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have another digital regret, and I have yet to rectify this one.
Okay.
One of my favorite games to ever hit the earth is Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Yes.
And I don't own it physically.
Oh, you bought it digitally.
Yeah.
You have a lot of Switch games that you bought digitally.
Yeah. So a brief history with me and the Switch. When I first got my Switch, I bought the Switch and I bought Breath of the Wild. At the same time at the GameStop or wherever we were.
You bought it physically.
I bought a physical cartridge, and I'm so glad that I lucked into having that one physically, because that's one of those moments in gaming history that you got to have.
Right.
If you haven't played Breath of the Wild, what are you doing? Stop watching this. Go play the game. But from there on out, I bought a pretty big micro SD card. It's not like a terabyte or anything, but a pretty big one. And I downloaded everything for the first couple years that I owned my Switch, because I wanted that convenience.
It's super convenient.
Since it's a portable console, I wanted to be able to just switch games anywhere. I didn't want to have to keep up with the cartridges. We weren't running a gaming channel yet, so I was busy with life stuff, and I wasn't thinking as much about the game collecting point of view. But I've changed on that, so I probably have a number of digital regrets.
Oh yeah.
But that being said, some of them are great games. Shovel Knight. I don't know if Shovel Knight got a physical Switch release or not. I don't know.
It probably did at least.
Yeah, it should have.
At least through like Super Rare did it or something.
Man, that's one I would love to have. I would love to own a physical Shovel Knight. Those indie games like Stardew Valley, like you were talking about, those are just cool to own when they get those physical releases.
Yeah. Now, here's maybe a more interesting question, and it may be one that's a quick answer, but has there ever been a game that you regretted buying physically that you wish you had gotten digitally?
No, there's probably been lots of games I regretted buying physically in general because it was a piece of junk.
Like you shouldn't have bought the game to begin with.
Yeah, like it was.
Doesn't matter if it was physical or digital. You shouldn't have bought the game.
Just would have been a waste of time in general.
Right.
But no, I probably have never regretted a physical purchase, and that right there speaks volumes.
Yeah, I mean, you'd never, they are somewhat inconvenient.
They are.
If you're having to swap out discs, or you're having to, because even if you say you're playing a game on your PlayStation or your Xbox and you want to play the game, or even on PC a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. If you want to play the game, you've got to put the disc in. It's kind of like an unlock code that says you do have access to this game.
Yeah.
And that in itself is just kind of inconvenient. And I get that, like, if you change games often, like having to take a disc out and put a disc in, although it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, the little minor inconveniences stack up over time and it gets annoying, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I get that that's like the only thing that I think that might turn people off about physical. And then you got to deal with the fact that, well, also think about this. Like, if I was a kid, if I was like the same age I was when I was playing these games back in the day, I would have regrets about buying stuff physically because I would have destroyed it. And then I wouldn't be able to play it anymore. Whereas
That's
if it was
true.
digitally, I wouldn't have lost it. I have so many dead PlayStation 2 discs. So many.
That's true, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're an irresponsible kid with your games, then
Or like, say you're a parent and you're buying your child a game.
Yeah.
Do you opt to buy it digitally because you know that, like,
it won't break.
it won't break?
Yeah. So that may be the difference right there between, does collecting matter to you, or are you just looking to play the games when they're new?
Right. And then also, I think it has a lot to do with how good you are at taking care of your stuff.
And keeping up with it. Yeah.
Because, it took me becoming an adult to start caring about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It really comes down to when you start spending your own money on stuff.
Yes, it does.
That's what it really is.
That's exactly what it is.
So, let's see. We have more talking points here.
Yeah. So, as we know, these servers are shutting down for the Wii U and the 3DS. But, and we did kind of already touch on what can we expect for a reasonable life of a digital console. But there was also a comment somewhere, or digital console game. There was a comment earlier in the week on a YouTube video or a poll or something
of ours,
where they mentioned digital life being longer on PC due to these like multi-platform stores, Epic Games, Steam. If your PC dies, you still have your Steam login, that kind of thing. And I thought that was an interesting point. So what do you think about all that, Randall?
It just depends because, like, you can make the argument that, like, Steam goes to whatever PC you log into it at.
Yeah.
Which is cool. That being said, your PlayStation account and your Xbox account also goes with you. Like, I've got games on my Series X that I purchased digitally on the 360.
Yeah.
And they're still there.
Yeah.
So, like, the only systems I can think of where that really does matter is where it was, like, actually tied to the physical system. And that's like the early Nintendo stuff, like the Wii, the DS, the 3DS. Those systems was all tied to the actual console and not just your account.
Yes.
You would log in with your account, but it wasn't like it was different.
Yeah.
It was not, because it wasn't. They just implemented the the Nintendo online accounts with the Switch that do that can like transfer from system to system. Because it was a little different on at least as far as I know. I could be speaking out of turn here and I could be wrong about this, but the way I remember it was the Wii and the DS and the 3DS, all those are all tied to the actual system.
I think they are. I think Nintendo was probably a little late to the game on the whole unifying account thing. But I mean, it was,
and I don't
it was
know,
a new time in gaming.
I don't know how PlayStation is. I know like PlayStation, like my PS4 games that I purchased digitally are on my PS5.
For sure.
But I didn't have a PS3, and I don't know how that works. I don't know if PlayStation 3 was also tied to the specific console.
Well, I think it works because I actually have like PlayStation 2 games that I downloaded that are still tied to my PlayStation 5.
Like PS2 games that you download on PS3 or on?
Nope, downloaded them on PS2.
No, you did not. You can download games on PS2?
Yeah, well, it was a Bluetooth kind of thing.
What are you talking about?
I'm just being weird, man. I'm just messing with you.
What are you talking about? This is not real. You're going to confuse people.
I'm just kidding, man. We got to crack jokes, okay? We got to crack jokes.
If we're going to crack jokes, let's make them actual jokes.
Randy, sidebar. Okay, sidebar. Me and you right now. Randy has been such a troll lately, and I've been telling him, you're being a troll. You're being mean. Your friends are going to leave you. I keep telling him these things. He doesn't seem to be listening. But, if you could help me out with this sort of intervention down in the comments, I would really appreciate it.
If you want to see what it's really like, go watch our Twitch stream so you can see that I don't start this. It's Daniel. Go watch us play Sea of Thieves on Twitch. At the end of the night, he'll claim that I trolled him all night and that I was, kegging him and throwing blunder bombs at him.
Yeah.
But what he doesn't say is that he starts it. Okay.
That's ridiculous.
And then I just get my revenge. And then instead of just leaving it with, okay, he got me and then I got my revenge, he comes back. And then it's just an all night thing.
Now, I'm not going to say that there isn't some credence to these claims. I hear you. I see your grievances, and I'm acknowledging that. But I'm going to be on again. Sidebar with the audience here. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle of what we're both saying.
So, let's move on to talking about emulation, because I think that lots of times when you talk about games being taken down or not being down, well, people say, "Oh, you can just emulate them."
Yeah. Well, that's that's definitely a hot topic. I mean, that I've done quite a bit of that. I have a number of those. I have a couple of those handheld emulators, and I absolutely love them. I think they are amazing. Just the simple ability to apply save states to those old games just is a quality of life improvement like no other. But there is that like morality, legality kind of issue.
I mean, like, as far as I know, like, if you own the game, getting a backup ROM to play through emulation isn't necessarily illegal, and
that's my understanding.
But that being said, I've not really looked into it. That's just what I've heard people say.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, the way you get your ROMs is your business. We're not telling you what to do.
And my experience with ROMs is very limited, I kind of have used them in maybe hopefully the legal way, which is the only games I've ever played through emulation are games that I played back in the day, but for whatever reason my the cartridge is no longer working, or more accurately, the disc is no longer working. Because the only games I've ever emulated are old Pokemon games that I played as a kid that I purchased, and then I emulated Vice City. I think later on, it's because my disc was broken, so I wanted to play it, so I emulated it.
Yeah,
this was still a number of years back, but I haven't spent a whole lot of time with emulators and ROMs. And one thing I noticed about when I was playing these games through emulation is that the experience is not quite the same, which is what made me not that interested in them, because button prompts are wrong. You're not playing on the original hardware, so you're not getting the original intended experience. So there's this it's kind of like, I don't know how to quite express or explain why it feels different, but it kind of feels like there's something separating you from really feeling like you're actually playing the game the way it was intended. Yeah, and maybe it's just a mental thing.
And I think that's a good point, which makes me think about, going back to my Game Boy obsession.
Right.
I have a flash cart, for Game Boy Advance. So any Game Boy Advance ROMs that I have, I can play on original hardware.
Right, yeah.
And I will agree completely that is a definite improvement in the experience. I mean, it's like night and day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the way it was supposed to feel.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure. I always felt like ROMs were not visually, but mentally, it felt like you were playing the game, but you were looking through a pane of glass, like something was separating you from really being, like something, or like you were playing, the feeling of you're playing the game from the other room, and looking at a mirror as you play it. No, obviously, that's
yeah, you're getting philosophical.
I'm getting meta.
Yeah, you're getting meta, yeah.
But that's just kind of how it feels, in that there's this disconnect that is there in ROMs. At least it always felt that way to me. The few that I played, and I didn't do that many. So maybe the more I played, the more I would kind of get away from that, and it would feel, And I was also playing games that I had played and had a very deep feeling of what it was like to play those games.
Yeah, I can't say that I have as many issues with it as that. I've never necessarily felt that enormous disconnect. I will say, though, that playing on the original hardware is better. I mean, it just is. That's the way it was intended to be experienced, and it's better. I feel like objectively.
There's something magical about playing a game on its original hardware, especially once you're getting really far away from it, and you go back and it's like, this is how the game was intended to be played, and it's just got this little extra bit of magic.
Yeah.
It just does.
It absolutely does. And I completely blanked. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's keep going.
Another thing about ROMs is like, I never felt like because ROMs are typically free. There are websites that charge for ROMs, but as far as I know, those are also very much illegal to charge for a ROM.
Oh yeah, you're making
So
yeah.
So it's like illegal to. Yeah, it's like there's a whole extra layer
Yeah.
of legality there, but I never felt like I really owned the ROMs because you know what I mean. It was just like you didn't have any pride in collecting your ROMs, you know.
Right.
And I don't know. So, but then again, I haven't done much of it. You've done a lot more. Do you feel like ownership over your ROMs?
No, it's not. It's not the same kind of thing to me. I mean, it's nice to have a folder of ROMs and be able to play what you want to play. Like, but it's just it tickles the convenience itch,
Right.
not the collector's itch.
Yeah, I could totally see like, say if I did get into this, doing emulation ROMs, I could just see myself downloading like 200 ROMs and then just like playing like 20 seconds of every game and never actually playing anything.
Well, that's a problem I had with the all digital Switch and all digital games in general is that if I don't really hold myself accountable, I can have a really short attention span with a game.
Oh, you absolutely can.
Because they're just like, there's so many.
You're way worse about it than I am.
Oh, yeah, I am way worse about it. But I mean,
even games that you want to finish,
yeah,
you rarely finish.
I got less time, man. I don't have a lot of time.
You don't have a lot of time, but you also,
it's tough.
You also like, instead of saying like, I'm not going to start another game until I finish this game, you don't do that. You just start the next game.
I try, man, but it's hard.
You just get tempted by new games so much.
I do.
And then like, unless the game is a short game, another game's going to come along that's going to tempt you, and you're just going to move on to that one.
Yeah, that's kind of been the been the cycle.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then you kind of like, and
I used to not be.
If you're like me, like if I don't finish a game, I don't feel like I can. I understand that I can have an opinion on it and say like, oh, I enjoyed it, but whatever. But I don't feel like I really played it until I see the credits roll.
Yeah. That's definitely an argument to be made, and we are kind of getting off in the weeds here. But I mean, I do think there's something to be said for play the games you want to play, get the experiences you want to get, because time is a very precious resource, and I'm half making excuses for myself, but I do believe that. Mm-hmm. So like, I think you could go so far in the other direction where you have to finish this horrible game, and I'm not doing that.
And I do think that I tend to do that. I will finish a game even if I don't necessarily like it. I'll tend to finish it. But that being said, I'm trying to be better and better about that. If I went back and looked at my log of all the games I played in the past year, you would probably find that I played like, I don't even know how many games. I'm gonna guess it's like probably over 100, or around, because I definitely, let me think about this. Maybe not quite 100, maybe more like 75. Mm-hmm. If I had to estimate. And you would probably find that out of those 75, I abandoned 5 of them, which is a pretty low ratio. That is. But those are games, like if I abandon them, they're either like games that don't really have a clear ending in the first place, or they're games that are just like, I just couldn't get through them because they were really that bad. And they would have to be like really bad. Mm-hmm. Because even sometimes games that are not like grab you amazing, like sometimes they grow on you. Yeah. And you get to the end and you're like, you know what? The more I played this game, the deeper appreciation I got for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Some games are definitely that way.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And length is important. I mean,
oh yeah.
Like I'm pretty committed right now to Elden Ring, but I also know it's 40 and a half hours. That's how long to beat says for main story. So, but I used to be able to really dive into those RPGs.
Yeah, 40 hours. You could have done that in a week.
And I'm starting to kind of tap back into that side of my brain. I can kind of feel it. So I'm hoping to stick with it. But anyway, not going to make any crazy claims. But it just seems like around the 10 and 15 hour mark is generally about pushing it. Yeah, like I beat Sifu in 12, and I loved that game. I didn't have no problem finishing that game. But that game also did a great job of the ending was in sight. You knew what you were doing, and I didn't really expect any crazy surprises, and I didn't really get any. Right. So and that you could almost use that as a criticism, but I loved it. So anyway, back back to the real conversation at hand, we obviously we collect games, we collect consoles. Mm-hmm. Randy, why do you do that crazy sort of behavior?
I know. It's so like, I think collecting is a thing that people do that like is just a sign of interest. Like, from what I understand, I was actually, one of my piano students is a psychologist, and I was talking to him, and he said that, or maybe he's a psychiatrist. I don't know. He's not watching, so it's not going to matter.
What up, Shrink?
He was saying that that collecting is just like a very normal, and he said he actually looks for, because he works with a lot of adolescents, and he said that one of the main things he looks for to tell if a child is normal and like happy and functioning well is, do they collect things? So he said that that's like a very positive trait to have. And he said like, that's just a sign that you're happy and you have something in this world that you look forward to and you want to, surround yourself with it.
Well, that's a really optimistic spin to put on it.
Yeah. So collecting is, I think it's just part of, I've collected all kinds of stuff. When I was first getting really into music and playing guitar, I collected guitars. Mm-hmm. I got away from that because it's an expensive hobby, and I found other hobbies that I like collecting for that were much less expensive, namely gaming. Mm-hmm. Because games are expensive, yes, but they're not so expensive that you can't collect them. Like guitars are just crazy because once you really go down the guitar rabbit hole, you really aren't satisfied just having a bunch of cheap guitars.
No.
You like want to have the guitars, the ones that are worth collecting, and the ones that are worth collecting are thousands and thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. And what I would rather have is just like one of those guitars, and then, like that be my weapon,
Right. Well, I went through a similar thing with amps.
Right.
You can't see it, but behind the camera, there's a number of amplifiers. And luckily, I kind of caught myself, because what I did is I kind of had these like roles that I wanted those amps to fill, like musically, in my arsenal, so to speak. Yeah. And I just like researched and found what I felt like would be the best amps for those roles. And so far, I've stopped.
Yeah, you've kind of completed everything you think you need.
Yeah. So, yeah, kind of a similar thing there.
You got like 4 different sizes of amps.
Yeah.
And like each of them has a different role.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. 4 different sizes. Very small, medium, large.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is not an amp channel, so we're going to change the topic here. So I collect because I enjoy gaming, and I want to have that collection. I also collect books, like anything that I like to do. Like I read in like any media that I get into, I like to have physical copies of it. And it's just something that like, I think one day, like, do I ever think I'm going to sell it? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. Maybe one day down the road, if I just don't care about it anymore, maybe, but I really don't see myself even selling it. It's just,
you'll regret
it's
that.
Just purely just because I like it and I like having the collection. What about you?
It's a similar kind of thing. I've been collecting things forever. Like we both were doing the Pokemon card thing back in the day, like collecting has been a normal part of my life for a long time. And now I'm learning that that's a very positive character trait to have. So I'm gonna lean into it. You've reinvigorated my search for a Game Boy Light. I really would love to have, for some reason, the portable gaming just like really speaks to me. Mm-hmm. So I would love to keep going with that. Games, of course, I'm going to keep buying physical when I can. But
do you feel like your digital library? Do you feel that same sense of ownership or like pride over your digital library?
No, I do feel pride specifically on my Switch. Like I feel really good when I look at my Switch and I look through. So a little bit, because when I look through the library, I'm like, I could play this, I could play this, I could play Smash, I could play Hades, I could play Hollow Knight. Like there's all these things you can play, and that's cool to me. So I feel some pride over just like that. Again, arsenal like for that particular device, but.
Yeah, and I definitely do. I do as well. I don't have. It's not as much. Like I'm more like prideful of my, or proud of, I guess, of my physical, like say my like PlayStation games. Like I have a pretty decent digital PlayStation library because if you've been subscribed to PlayStation Plus forever, you get the monthly games, and I always claim them.
Yeah.
And also, like when you, for those who, I think they still do it. If you get a PS5, you get the PS5 collection, which is a pretty substantial digital library.
That's a great collection.
Yeah. So that's cool, I think, but it's not the same as the games I actually have physically. And then say like Game Pass, like you have access to Game Pass, but you don't feel like proud of this huge digital collection on Game Pass that you have because you only, if you stop paying your monthly fee, you don't have it anymore.
And can I make a side note about that PlayStation collection?
Yeah, that PS5 collection.
Yeah, Last of Us Part 1 is in that, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So that's my favorite game of all time, and I just want to kind of circle back and mention that right there is a physical game that I don't have that I should have.
You don't? I thought you did have it.
I've never had Last of Us Part 1 physically.
Oh, really? I could have swore that you did have it because you bought it digitally when it came out, or you bought on the PS4. You bought the remaster digitally.
Actually, it came with a code for it.
Oh, it came with a code.
Yeah. So I've never had that one physically, and I don't have Last of Us Part 2 physically because I borrowed yours. So those
That's right. You just borrowed the game. And
those
played
are
it.
two games that I really should own because being my two favorite games ever, I should buy.
Yeah,
those.
you should definitely get versions of it. Okay, so let's see here. We've kind of talked already about cartridges versus discs and why we prefer cartridges over discs. But that being said, as an adult, I don't know that I mean, besides the fact that you're reading directly off the cartridge, which is cool, I take so much better care of a disc. Like I can play, and never put even the tiniest little scratch on a disc anymore.
Yeah,
so
of course. You just keep them in the case.
now it's no big deal. So I don't really care.
Yeah. We want to move on to some poll and viewer comments.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we threw up a poll a couple days back that says, do you prefer your video game collections to be physical or digital?
Right.
So Randy, you want to talk to us about these results?
Yeah, so like the large majority of people, or I should say the most voted on thing was physical. And that makes sense. I think that most people are in agreement with this. I think that physical is, for all the reasons we've spoke about today, we like physical. I think, the convenience of digital is very tempting. And I think that some people are definitely tempted with that. And then below that, with about half, a little over half the amount of people who said physical said digital. So it's almost 2 to 1, prefer physical over digital. Which makes sense, but maybe as the world becomes more and more digital, maybe we'll see that number grow. Maybe if we do this poll in time, we'll see the results differ.
Yeah, because every day a new video comes out on YouTube about how the Xbox Series S is a great value.
Yeah, but what amazed me is that about the same amount of people who said they liked it digitally said that they didn't really care and that they take either or. They just kind of mix and matched.
Yeah, that's true.
So
interesting.
So and I could definitely. I think that I'm definitely pretty heavy in the physical camp, but to me, it totally makes sense. Like those people who say like, I'll take it physically or digitally, I don't really care. To me, they're probably just laid back and just like wherever they can get the game conveniently, they're like, if it's, or they maybe where it's cheapest game. Or like, whatever's convenient for them, I'm
probably going to be able to find it cheapest physically eventually.
Probably. And I think that's what a lot of that certainly is something that draws a lot of people to buy it physically is that you can go on say you go on the PlayStation Store and say it's a PlayStation exclusive and it's still $60 or $70 on the PlayStation Store. But you might be able to go into a GameStop and buy a used physical copy for $10.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that makes a lot of sense. That kind of is another argument in favor of physical is that you can buy secondhand used copies.
And we've done a lot of, retro game purchasing specifically through Facebook Marketplace.
Oh yeah, tons of it.
So don't sleep on Facebook Marketplace. If you're
guys, you can get great deals on there.
Great deals.
Yeah, because you can often buy from people who are just trying to get rid of stuff. They don't know what they have. I saw a lady selling a GameCube for $25. No, it's $20.
Oh,
$20 for a GameCube.
That's awesome.
Gosh, and she lived in another town, kind of semi far away from us. And I messaged her and said, hey, I wasn't available today. I was like, would you be available tomorrow? And she's like, if I don't sell it by then, but she sold it like 5 minutes later because of course she did. I was almost like, can I just send you the money for it and I'll come get it tomorrow? But I don't want to just send money to some random person on Facebook and hope that they're going to be cool.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. So we got some comments too about this, about asking, do you prefer physical or digital? And let's see what people had to say.
Yeah. Go ahead and get us started on that first comment, Randy.
I'm going to start with Adam's comment, okay?
Sounds good.
So Adam says, it depends. If it's on Steam, digital. Well, I mean, of course, if it's on Steam, that's their only option. You can't.
Agreed.
Yeah. If it's a Nintendo console or some other walled garden physical then he said pick it up physical. So if it's on Nintendo or PlayStation or Xbox. Let's see. If I upgrade my PC and log out somewhere on Steam, I can have all games. See, this is what the comment you were talking about. This is the comment
we mentioned, yeah.
If I move to the next console, they will stop supporting my digital collection eventually, or make me buy the games again. See, that's what Nintendo's done. They say you'll buy it over and over, right? Mm-hmm. So at least if it was a physical collection, I would still have, the collectible value, which is true, but also you'd be able to play it. I mean, unless you're saying that if your console dies, you could always buy another console and then play it there too. So
you could.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next up we have Peter, and he says straight up physical, especially with online shops closing for some systems,
Right. Yeah.
Referencing what's going on now in Nintendo.
Mm-hmm. And then, 9 Owl Games say, I miss the booklets, maps, and box art, but these days games are not on discs. The discs are just unlock a download. May as well. Might as well download them. Yeah. See, that's what we were talking about earlier. Now, technically, a lot of the games are on the disc. So I want to be clear about that. He's saying that some of them are just like keys to unlock the download. And that is true in some cases. But most of the time, the game, at least a version of the game, it may not even be close to the game that you actually download on day because it could have so many patches and stuff that's not on the disc.
That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day.
That's a whole other thing, yeah. But usually there is something on the disc at least. It's not just an unlock code.
Yeah, and I love that he mentioned, we haven't even talked about, booklets, instruction booklets with art and all that coming in games anymore.
Yeah.
But I have a few old booklets from like Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. I have some of that stuff from my childhood. Mm-hmm. And that stuff is so cool. Like I have the manual from The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons. And that manual is so cool to look through because it's got like little bios on all the characters you run into. And
I think cool. I think they figured out that kind of stuff just was, they could make a digital version and save a whole lot of money.
Absolutely.
And I get it. But it is sad because now like you open a Switch game and it's like literally nothing. It just has the inside cover art and it's like, man. And
now you got to buy those big collector's editions to get stuff like that.
Oh yeah. And that's what they want you to do. If you want the art book and you got to buy the collector's edition. That's just what they want.
Yeah.
Because they're going to make you pay for it.
Well, next up we got Daryl Dean, and he prefers physical, but it's kind of pointless at this point since you need to be online anyway.
Yeah, I think it really just comes down to what type of games you're playing. Like some games require you to be online to enjoy them. Like say buying a physical version of Sea of Thieves. Like you can't play the game without getting online anyway. So certainly those games, but most like single player experiences don't require that you be online to play them. So it really just comes down to the specific games in terms of that point. Mm-hmm. So I still think it's worth buying physically because, say, let's just take Last of Us Part 2 as an example, since I'm looking at the Last of Us poster here. It's behind the camera. You can't see it.
Beautiful.
But that game, Last of Us Part 2, let's say in 20 years, I still have a PlayStation to play it on. I can put that game in and play it without needing to be connected online. So
true.
It really just depends on the game.
Yeah. Well, I think that about wraps up our comments, right?
That does wrap up the comments. But tell us, guys. We don't have to be finished with comments. You can leave us some comments. Let us know, do you prefer physical or digital games? Like, are you worried about digital games? Like, are you worried about the ownership and like how long you'll actually have ownership of them like we are? Or are you totally cool with the digital future,
Yeah. And guys, please go check us out on all the various social media platforms. We've got the Twitter. We've got the Twitch that we stream to about 5 nights a week. Normally Sea of Thieves. That's a lot of fun. We've got a TikTok. Obviously, if you're watching us here, you found us on YouTube. But we've also got a Discord server that we're working really hard to build. We really want that to be more of a community. So down in the description of the video, you'll find an invite link for that Discord server. Go ahead and click that link and drop us a line and say hello.
Yeah, we love the Discord. We love the community we built there. You know, it's a kind of a tighter knit community of people, and there's things like game recommendations in there. People post their game clips. If something cool happened in a game you're playing, post it there.
Yeah.
We love looking at them, and everyone in there enjoys just seeing what everyone's up to. It's a really cool place with a lot of cool people. At least the people that are there. It's not a huge,
not yet,
but we want it to be.
It's not huge
and the
yet.
people that are there are really cool. So go hang out with us there, guys.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
And this has been Gaming Gig.
Peace out.